Hello, welcome to the Children's Bible in 365 Stories. Today we're going to hear story 28, The Trickster Tricked. And that's in reference to Jacob and how he tricked his brother Esau, found in Genesis chapters 28 and 29. And where we last left off, he was headed to the village where his mother came from because his brother was wanting to kill him because of the ways in which he had tricked his brother. And he was going there also to find a wife and to wait for his brother's anger to subside. And when he got near the town, he saw a well, and a beautiful young woman named Rachel came to the well, who was his uncle's daughter, and she took him home with him. And now we're going to hear what happens after that. Laban, his uncle, welcomed his sister's son Jacob and made him stay with them and their two daughters, Leah and Rachel. Jacob helped by looking after his uncle's flocks. "I should be paying you for all your hard work," Uncle Laban said one day. "I do not want any wages," Jacob replied. "If you let me marry Rachel, I will work 7 years for you without pay." That would be kind of the equivalent of a dowry. So back then, marriages were arranged, and what would happen is that when the girl married the guy, she would go and live with the guy's family and would only see her family ever again if his family gave permission. But if the distance was too great, she may never see her family again, would become part of his, so her family would lose her ability to help the family do chores and work around the house to maintain the household and provide food. And so a dowry amount of money or animals was given to the family to compensate for the lost work of the daughter once she got married. So he's offering 7 years of labor as the dowry to marry Laban's daughter, Rachel. Jacob loved Rachel so much that 7 years of hard work seemed a small price to pay in order to have her as his wife. When the 7 years were ended, a great marriage feast was arranged. At nightfall, in the darkness, Laban brought Jacob, his bride. But when the next morning dawned, Jacob found that the woman he had married was not Rachel, but Leah. Jacob, who had tricked others, remember his brother Esau twice, had been tricked himself. So part of what would happen is you'd have the marriage, and then they would go off together, and it was a full marriage after they went off together. And what happened was the father put the other daughter in without him realizing it until it was too late, and they were tied together in marriage. When Jacob complained bitterly to Laban, he told him that it would have been unfair to Leah for her younger sister to be married first. So Laban not only tricked him, he tricked his daughter, because there's an order at which you marry, and the wrong daughter was married off. "If you wait until this week's celebrations are over," Laban promised, "you shall marry Rachel as well. But you must work another 7 years for me in payment." At that while, men often had more than one wife, in spite of the jealousy and quarrels that it caused, so both sisters were married to Jacob. After a while, Jacob also took their 2 maidservants to be his wives, as the custom then was. Jacob soon had many sons, but Rachel, the wife he loved dearly, had no children. So now he's married, he's got a couple of wives, he's worked for his uncle for 14 years, and he's begun his own family. Rachel was bitterly jealous of Leah because of all the sons she had, and Leah was very unhappy because Jacob did not love her in the same way that he loved Rachel. At long last, Rachel had a son and called him Joseph. After Joseph was born, Jacob planned to leave Laban, but the flocks had grown so large since Jacob had looked after them that Laban persuaded him to stay, offering him wages at last. Jacob asked to have for his own any black lambs and speckled goats in the flock. So part of what he's doing is he's saying, I will take the lambs and I will take the goats that aren't pleasing to people, the rejects from the flock. I will take all of those as my pay. So not all, and what is happening here too is one of the promises that God had given to Jacob's father was that he would be blessed in everything he did, and he passed that blessing on to Jacob. So Jacob, caring for these sheep and goats, had caused, because of God's blessing, had been able to expand the flock tremendously, and Laban didn't want to lose that because Laban's riches went up enormously because of the blessing Jacob had through how these animals were taken care of. So let us continue. Laban readily agreed, for there were not many like that. But when many black and speckled ones were born, Laban was cross and tried to cheat Jacob by changing his agreement. But however often Laban cheated Jacob, God made him successful. And soon he had not only made Laban rich, but had become a wealthy owner of flocks and herds himself. One night God told Jacob to return to his home in Canaan. Next day, while Laban was away, he and his wives, their children, and all the animals got ready to set off on the journey back to the land that God had promised to give to Jacob's descendants in time to come. So he waited till Laban was gone on a small trip of his own, packed up all of his family, wife, all of his animals, and left, even though he made Laban rich and Laban didn't want to see him go. He had become rich himself because of God's blessing that worked for both of them. Now he was heading back home where he had his own birthright waiting for him that he wanted to go and claim. Well, this story will continue. You have a blessed day and be safe.